No mai haere mai. Welcome to 3 News. A father and son have been identified as the gunmen who turned a Jewish celebration at Australia's most famous beach into a living nightmare. Over 10 minutes of pure terror, the pair fired shot after shot after shot at the hundreds gathered for the event as people ran for their lives or desperately tried to seek shelter. 15 people were killed, dozens more were injured. Police shot one of the gunmen dead. The other is in a critical condition in hospital. But the death toll could have been much, much higher if not for the incredible bravery of a passerby who wrestled a gun from one of the attackers. We have extensive coverage of the attack and reaction from both here and around the world. But first, we cross live to Bondi Beach, where senior correspondent Lisette Raymer is standing by. Lisette, we're 24 hours on now from the shooting. What's the scene like there now?
Well, things are certainly not as they usually are, Sam. The typically bustling Bondi is very quiet today. It is sombre, it is eerie. You might be able to hear the hum of the media helicopters overhead. They've been circling for most of the day, but really here it is quiet as people deal with a grief that really feels to be all-consuming today. There is still, as you can see behind me, a significant police cordon in place. There is also a significant police presence, not just the officers that you can see, but also an undercover police presence as all efforts go towards helping this community reinstate a sense of safety as they grapple with that very big question of how on earth did this happen in their backyard.
So suddenly, a beach day so familiar to so many turned into one so unrecognisable. 2 gunmen, a father and son, using long-armed weapons, firing from a bridge into hordes of happy people. An act of terror directed at around 1,000 people, gathered to celebrate Hanukkah, the Jewish festival of lights. The shell-shocked sheltering under benches meant for barbecuing friends and families as the bullets ricocheted around them. Amid the sirens, the sound of children screaming. It was around 6:45 in the evening and Australia's most famous beach and surrounds were packed for sunset. A day of sunshine and festive fun, interrupted by a sound most couldn't comprehend, triggering a stampede of beachgoers, the panic spreading across the beach like a tidal wave. Amid the horror, a hero. While others ran to safety, Ahmed Al-Ahmed ran towards the danger, pouncing on the 50-year-old shooter Sajid Akram and wrangling the gun from his hands in a remarkable show of bravery. But video soon emerged of Ahmed being held as he waited for help. His cousin today revealing he required surgery and is now recovering in hospital.
He's a hero, 100% he's a hero. He have 2 shots, one in his arm here and one in his hand.
Drone footage shows the other shooter, 24-year-old Naveed Akram, later standing on the bridge before law enforcement swarmed. Dozens of casings scattered around him, evidence of the volume of gunfire. Amid the chaos and in the heat of the moment, a man is seen running towards the body of the dead gunman and kicking him before being moved aside by police. The father dead, his son seriously injured and apprehended, and around them, carnage. The frantic mission to save as many of the wounded as possible, continuing under a haze of red and blue.
It was absolute chaos. We didn't know what was happening, where the gunfire was coming from. I saw blood gushing in front of me. I saw people hit, saw people fall to the ground. My only concern was, where are my kids? Where are my kids? Where's my wife?
15 innocent people have now been confirmed dead, aging from 10 to 87. The youngest, the bright-eyed Matilda Poltavchenko. 29 others have been taken to hospital.
I seen like a kid, like she was like maybe 8 years old, she got injured in the leg and she was crying and she was on the ground.
2 officers are also in a serious condition and an entire country is left struggling to make sense of the senseless.
It's a very sombre mood. It's strange. I think everyone's feeling a lot more connected than usual. It's sad. It's eerie almost.
Kiwi Tiffany Salmond was among the unfolding nightmare, just 20 metres from the bridge when gunfire first shattered the summer peace.
So I assumed it was a car backfiring, and then another one went off really quickly, and then a third, and I looked around and people were running, and that's when I started running too. There was a massive crowd all running like this way. It was just like a stampede.
Along with dozens of others, the Aucklander took refuge in the local police station.
I think the most terrifying thing was when the gunshots kept going off. It was very clear in my mind that this was a mass shooting where they weren't discriminating, and that was terrifying.
Christopher Luxon with a message of support on behalf of all of those New Zealanders at home.
Our thoughts are first and foremost with those who lost loved ones and those who were injured. Hanukkah should be a time of peace and joy, not of pain and grief.
While the Australian Prime Minister is vowing not to let this act of violence corrode the spirit of the country.
What we saw yesterday was an act of pure evil, an act of anti-Semitism, an act of terrorism on our shores in an iconic Australian location, Bondi Beach. This was an attack deliberately targeted at the Jewish community on the first day of Hanukkah, which of course should be a joyous celebration.
This is now Australia's second deadliest shooting, behind the 1996 Port Arthur tragedy, which claimed 35 lives and prompted the country to introduce some of the world's toughest gun laws. The horror didn't end with the gunfire. The agony extended as police dealt to several improvised explosive devices in the attacker's car.
When I ask for calm, that is really important. This is not a time for retribution. This is a time to allow the police to do their duty.
The Festival of Lights has been dimmed by anti-Semitism, but not extinguished. Night one of celebrations ended with a massacre that will scar this country forever. But this is a community bound in love, in spite of the hate that was thrown its way.
OK, Lisette, what more do we know about the father and the son gunmen and their motivation to carry this out?
Yeah, the details are slowly starting to emerge, Sam. We know that the 24-year-old was a recently unemployed bricklayer who had told his family that he and his father were off on a fishing trip this weekend. His mother today expressed immense shock at the news that her son was involved in this incident. She described him as a good boy. She went as far as to say he's the sort of son every mother wishes they had. She said he didn't hang out with the wrong crowd, he didn't smoke, he didn't drink, he didn't party, he simply went to work, came home and went to exercise, and that was the story of his life. But others are painting a very different picture. The family's neighbours today revealed that the family was slightly weird in their words and that they would never stop to say hello or have a conversation. We also know from police that at least one of the gunmen was known to police. Now, the details there are still fairly under wraps, but it has been revealed and widely reported this evening that the son had been flagged 6 years ago for a connection to the ISIS terror group, and it's now believed that both men had pledged their allegiance to ISIS with an ISIS flag found in their car following the shooting.
OK, Lisette, thank you for that update, and we will come back to you a little bit later on in the program. World leaders, including Donald Trump, have hailed the man who disarmed one of the terrorists as a hero. Ahmed Al-Ahmed is an Australian father of two who owns a fruit shop in Sydney. Despite still being in hospital after undergoing surgery for gunshot wounds, his father says he's in good spirits. His act of bravery undoubtedly saved many lives. Senior reporter Juliette Speedy has the story.
The video now shared around the world. The man in the white T-shirt lunging at the 50-year-old gunman and wresting his weapon from him. Then Ahmed Al-Ahmed points it squarely back at the gunman. Next, the father of two with no firearms experience places the gun against the tree and holds his hands up to surrender. Soon after, he was shot by the second terrorist and remains in hospital.
It's the most unbelievable scene I've ever seen. A man walking up to a gunman who had fired on the community and single-handedly disarming him, putting his own life at risk to save the lives of countless other people. That man is a genuine hero, and I've got no doubt that there are many, many people alive tonight as a result of his bravery.
Bravery noticed in some of the world's highest officers.
And there's been a very, very brave person, actually, who went and attacked frontally one of the shooters and saved a lot of lives. So, very brave person who's right now in the hospital, pretty seriously wounded.
We saw an action of a brave man, turns out a Muslim brave man, and I salute him, that stopped one of these terrorists from killing innocent Jews.
It was absolute chaos. We didn't know what was happening.
This Jewish survivor of the attack also survived the Israeli terror attack by Hamas 2 years ago.
I survived October 7th. I lived in Israel the last 13 years. We came here only 2 weeks ago to work with the Jewish community, to fight anti-Semitism, to fight this bloodthirsty, ravaging hatred.
That's why you're here?
That's why I'm here.
This man is a Jewish chaplain for state emergency services in Sydney.
Once the shooting stopped, I went out, tried to help people. I was just covering bodies because there was people dead everywhere. Young, old, rabbi, they're all dead.
There will now be many questions. The father was a licensed firearms holder with 6 licensed guns and was the member of a gun club.
Ballistics and forensic investigation will determine this morning that those 6 firearms are the 6 that were licensed to that man, but also that they were used in the offence yesterday at Bondi.
High-powered rifles that caused unimaginable damage at the peaceful Jewish gathering.
There's a woman crying next to her husband because his head was completely exploded. I mean, how am I going to consult her? What am I going to tell her? But I tell you one thing. I got these candles there, and I'm going to go home and I'm going to light them up. Because we must light up and keep the show going. We're not afraid.
Australia Tonight saying this is who we are, a brave man in a white T-shirt, not a terrorist with a gun.
Christopher Luxon has described the terror attack in Bondi as a vile act of hatred and anti-Semitism. The Prime Minister said he's spoken with Jewish community leaders to reaffirm the government's commitment to the safety of their people. But as political correspondent Zane Small reports, it's raised concerns about New Zealand's security at a time of heightened geopolitical tensions.
Armed police standing guard outside the Holocaust Centre in Wellington and at the entrance to a Jewish preschool in Auckland. A display of vigilance in the wake of the terror attack across the Tasman.
And there will be an increased police presence around the country, including additional patrols at significant sites of Jewish worship around New Zealand.
You must have increased vigilance around all vulnerable communities at this point, not just in Australia but in New Zealand as well, because terrorists speak not just to a domestic but to an international audience.
The Bondi shooting has sent shockwaves across the globe. King Charles writing, "My wife and I are appalled and saddened by the most dreadful and anti-Semitic terrorist attack on Jewish people." He goes on to say, in times of hurt, Australians always rally together in unity and resolve.
Australia and New Zealand are closer than friends. We are family. And when something like this happens to our family, we feel it all deeply.
Australian investigators are examining if the 2 Bondi terrorists had allegiance to ISIS or Islamic State, the same terror group linked to the killing of 2 American soldiers and a civilian interpreter in Syria just days ago.
We lost 3, so it was a rough day. But to Australia and the Prime Minister, to everybody that we know so well, we get along with so well, we have a great relationship. That's a terrible situation going on over there.
We know because of the Gaza conflict that tensions have been running high between a number of different communities, and there have been extremists and threats of violence. So it was in large part foreseeable that a terror attack was coming.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has accused his Australian counterpart of failing to act on warnings.
Your government did nothing to stop the spread of anti-Semitism in Australia. You did nothing to curb the cancer cells that were growing inside your country. You took no action. You let the disease spread. And the result is the horrific attacks on Jews we saw today.
Anthony Albanese did not return fire in his response.
This is a moment for national unity. This is a moment for Australians to come together. That's precisely what we will be doing.
So what do you make of Benjamin Netanyahu's comments to Anthony Albanese, seeming to suggest that Australia could have prevented this attack? Look, I'm not going to comment on Australian domestic politics. The important thing, I think, today is actually for us to be expressing tremendous solidarity for the Jewish people. Christopher Luxon wrapped up his press conference earlier than usual this afternoon to meet privately with Jewish community leaders to express the government's solidarity at a time of heightened anxiety.
And Zane, you've heard today from our intelligence service.
Yes, the New Zealand Security Intelligence Service, or SIS, says it is liaising with its counterparts in Australia as more information about the Bondi attack comes to light. As we've already touched on, it has emerged that one of the terrorists was known to Australian intelligence with those links to Islamic State. But at this time, New Zealand's terrorism threat level is unchanged, meaning an attack is assessed as a realistic possibility. But the SIS tells us that could change at any time as new information emerges because it is constantly being reassessed. But Sam, the New Zealand Jewish Council has this afternoon expressed gratitude to the New Zealand authorities for the engagement that it's had, saying it provides comfort at a time when many Jewish families are feeling anxious about the potential for similar acts of violence to be carried out here.
Ngā mihi Zane, thanks so much. Foreign Minister Winston Peters has joined the Prime Minister in offering New Zealand's condolences to those affected by the attack. I spoke to him a short time ago and began by asking if he'd been in contact with his Australian counterpart, Penny Wong.
No, but we've, across the department, spoken to each other. The reality is this is a totally abhorrent, vile terrorist attack, and our deep sympathy goes to those who've been the victims and the sufferers from it.
You were, I can't help but remember, Deputy Prime Minister when the March 15 terror attack happened here. I wonder, as this unfolded, did it take you back to that dark moment in New Zealand's history?
Yeah, somewhat. There's no use saying, it's lesser numbers because it's always horrible for those families who lose their loved ones. It's just a circumstance where, vile hatred and anti-Semitism in this case has had a chance to embed itself in those actions. And the sooner that they are removed from our part of the world, the better.
Does this attack in Bondi raise any kind of risk of a similar attack here? Could it, for example, inspire other extremists?
Well, we have to look at responsibilities back here in terms of our own security, and clearly we have taken action not just in the last 24 hours, but for some time to try and beef that security up. That, of course, lies with the Minister of Police, but I do know that that's happened.
Yeah, and just in that last 24 hours, is the government aware of any new or credible threats against the Jewish community or any other community since last night's attack?
Well, the problem, Samantha, in speaking to you, is that I can't speak to you on these matters. These are critical security matters, and we will do the best we can, but I can't speak about them publicly.
We do know, Minister, of course, police figures show that there has been a fairly rapid rise in anti-Semitic attacks here since the beginning of the war in Gaza. If you can't speak specifically about any threats at the moment, can you tell us about what the government is doing to curb any of those threats and to protect communities?
Well, we've taken steps to up our security, up the level of surveillance, up the level of man and woman power engaged in that, and to try and keep our eyes close to the action here and our ears close to the ground on any potential developments. But you've always got the problem that there could be a rogue person out there that we haven't seen.
So should Kiwis be worried?
Well, we don't live in the same innocent society as we once did. That happened on March the 15th. That's what I said back then. New Zealand will never be the same. And here we go again, even though it's in our neighbourhood and it's in Australia. And thank heavens that, no New Zealanders have been affected, but it'll be a tragedy that we deeply share with the Australian people.
Just finally, Minister, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has accused Australia's Prime Minister of fuelling anti-Semitism through his support for a Palestinian state. What do you make of that claim?
Look, I can't make a comment on that. All I can say is that we have addressed that issue ourselves at the United Nations, gave our reasons for that, and we stand behind them.
We'll leave it there. Thank you for your time today, Foreign Minister Winston Peters. Tēnā koe.
Thank you.
OK, we're going to go back to our senior correspondent, Lisette Raymer, now at Bondi Beach. Lisette, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has spoken again this afternoon. He's proposing tougher gun laws. What's his plan?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Sam. Understandably, there has been a huge focus today on how that gunman was legally able to be licensed to have 6 firearms in his possession, and he had been since 2015. Anthony Albanese is wanting to move quickly on this. He wants to show that he is taking action. In the most recent press conference, he has said he is prepared to do whatever it takes to make people feel as safe as possible and to invigorate these gun laws. There is a proposal at this stage, and it is in the early stages, but what they're looking at is introducing a limit on the number of firearms you can have, even if you are licensed to hold them, and also an ongoing review of that licence so that someone cannot just have a licence in forever. They need to be constantly reviewed and check that they haven't had any changes to their character or they haven't been radicalised. So certainly action is being taken today, but you get the sense here, Sam, that people are less worried about the legislation right now and the politics today. They're really focused on coming together. Everyone here is leaning on each other to process what they have been through. They are sharing hugs, they are sharing tears, they are sharing memories, and we've seen people from all walks of life come together, different faiths, different cultures, people from all around the world, including, of course, New Zealanders. A lot of Kiwis here showing the aroha that is being felt in New Zealand and bringing that to the shore here in Bondi, at Bondi. Ultimately, everybody wants to prove, Sam, that together we are stronger than any force that seeks to divide us.
Lisette, thanks so much. That's Lisette Raymer there live from the scene of the terror attack at Bondi Beach.